good at following these mitigation measures.
Well, if they're reasonably good, I guess.
为什么你认为这个刚才的数据模型15-20万的死亡是合理的呢？
Numbers, but I'd rather have them say the numbers if you don't mind. It's a big question.
这个问题需要我们的 Berkey 博士来回答。他说这个只是一个预测，基于现在的当前数据的做的一个预测。这个 PowerPoint 上面的这个数据图形是基于我们的真实数据的。虽然这个数据一定会100%的发生，但是我们如果虽然你说这个接下来2周会非常痛苦，我的意思就是说会有更多的这个死亡人数，但是它上升到一个峰值以后呢，就会从峰值下来的。死亡人数也会减少。这就是如果我们想减少死亡率的话，就是我们要多大努力，更加强力的把这个疫情爆发的曲线压平啊，叫 flatten the curve。我们当然不会希望这个死亡的人数会达到这么高，但是基于现实的目前的数据，这是我们所预测的。所以这个记者好像没有看懂这个图表的意思啊。
That's it. Okay, so what I showed you was a generic picture of what happens in an epidemic.
我给你展示的是一个典型的啊，这个传染病爆发的一个预测的一个曲线模型啊。所以这个记者就质疑说，这个曲线跨度的时间跨度太大。
And this is the IHME data. The peak is over the next 2 weeks, and this is.
所以这个峰值，他说的话就会在接下来2个礼拜会出现，也就在这个4月中旬的时候会出现。对，4月中旬，对。
Through the superb medical care that every client is receiving, but also even more stringent people following the guidelines.
对，就是2方面的因素，就是。
Characters, but are we seeing death until June? I can't really. This is June, so we would still see.
6月份一直到6月份的话，我们会一直会看到源源不断的病人的死亡。
Deaths always lag, so you will be seeing deaths at a time when, as an epidemic, we're doing really, really well because the deaths will lag.
对，一般人的死亡都是在这个疫情数据之后发生的。好，这个 CNN 的这个闹事的记者又开始问问题了。我们必须要做好准备。这一定会出现这么多的死亡率吗？当然，我不希望这样了。但是这是非常有可能的，基于现在的数据。但是我们一定要做好准备啊。你觉得我们国家在接下来这么短的时间内有能力对应这种突发的死亡啊、爆发呀？我们看到了这个情形啊，已经在纽约发生了，这是非常艰难的一个情形了。我们必须要对它做好准备。
That's based and heavily laden by the data that has come in from New York and New Jersey.
对，这个数据呢是主要是基于这个纽约、新泽西的这个数据来做出的这个预测模型。所以说才出现了这个比较大的风险和比较多的死亡的人数预测。
then it's a very different picture.
对，但是如果我们要采取更加严厉、强硬的这个措施的话，或提供更多的医疗资助帮助的话，那这个曲线就会变得不一样的。
If we can suppress that from any kind of a spike, the numbers could be significantly lower.
对，如果我们把这个曲线压平的话啊，对，这就是包括一定要严格的遵守我们的制定的这个指导方针。对，尽量把这个峰值压平。
We would hope that we could keep it.
Do we have the next slide or the slide after that? Just go, yeah, one more slide. Perfect, yeah, thank you.
Would you tell cities that aren't doing what, New York, New Jersey, Washington, the cities that have been taking charge in all of this, would you urge some of the cities that haven't been doing this, Mr. President, to get with the program?
Well, I would, but if you see New York, I believe the blue is New York. New York is having a much harder time than other of the cities. Certain cities are doing. Actually, if you look down here, an incredible job.
总统在解释这个科研的数据啊。那这个记者的问题就是说，你要对那个除了纽约和新泽西的城市，也要提供怎样的这个指导方针？这样的话，他们才不会重复纽约和新泽西目前的这种情形啊。大概这个意思啊。
You told us yesterday that you're accomplishing, or the U.S. at least is accomplishing 100,000 tests per day, but we're still hearing difficult stories from the front lines of the first responders.
昨天说了，昨天一天就测了大概11万的测试样品，但是有人又说这个不一样的结果。我们做的检测比世界其他国家做的都多。
And the word is exponential. We are getting more and more and more. And now we have the new test that you saw yesterday. That's going to be rolled out, I think, tomorrow or the next.
昨天你看到那个我们新的打算采纳的这个测试手段的话，也会帮助我们更快、更准确的做更多的检测的。如果你有一个非常不准确，只有50%准确度的测试，那都太糟糕了。但是我们的检测手段要远远的好，非常非常的准确。我们做的又多检测，而且做的非常非常的准确。
The test president unveiled yesterday. The Abbott Laboratories test, which is
这个 Abbott 的这个测试的方法，是我们接下来会大力使用的这么一个方法，因为它只有15分钟的这个检测时间，非常快。这个 Abbott 的这个实验室，它会大概以后每天生产大概这个5万个这种测试的试剂盒。And what we're doing is trying to identify the areas where we may yet have pockets, or, as Dr. Burks 也在不断的发现这个可能会急需这种测试试剂盒的这些区域，这样的话我们就集中精力，加大这种地区的这种检测的这个检测的需要，检测的数量。
And that is that when you look at this chart, go back 15 days, and the reality is that. And this is me speaking as a layperson.
我作为一个门外汉的话，假如我们把这个曲线回放15天之前的话，如果回到15天之前，如果我们当时就知道的话，采取更加严厉的措施的话，就不会出现今天这个局面。应该。
It really does give evidence that, at least it begins to give evidence that the 15 days to slow the spread is working.
就是说，我们采取的这个15天的这个严管疫情的指导方针是有效的、工作的啊。因为你看其他州的情况就看出来了，他们没有像纽约、新泽西那样的大爆发。觉得副总统在说纽约、新泽西可能采取的这个有点太晚。
The president's coronavirus guidelines were working, and that's precisely why President Trump is asking every American to continue to put these guidelines into practice for 30 more days.
继续在接下来30天的这个。
So right now we're at about 4,000 deaths here in the United States. You're suggesting a spike of more than
美国已经有4000人死亡了。
Do you have a demographic breakdown of the areas that are most at risk and where most of those deaths may occur?
你有这种死亡人口分布的这个一个谱图吗？ 对呀，他这个不，他没有用1亩3分地啊，这个1亩3分地网站上都已经很清楚的标注这个哪一个城市啊，哪一个州，具体到哪一个城市都是死亡的人数，每天更新都有啊。所以这个记者看来还是没有完全这个关注这个疫情的这个进展。
It's possible, and we're watching very closely to make sure it doesn't have a spike. But that's what the people in Washington State are doing. This is what every community, Washington State early, about 2 weeks before New York or New Jersey. California, a week before New York or New Jersey, really talked to their communities and decided to mitigate before they started seeing this number of cases. And now we know that makes a big difference. Early, as Dr. Fauci said, if you wait till you see it, it's too late.
对，就是尽早的，一定要尽早的执行这个遇困的这个方针，才能有效的压平这个扩散的曲线。
Very low mortality, not to say that young people under 30 or young people under 40 aren't getting ill. They are, but most of them are recovering. So the profile looks identical to Italy with increasing mortality with age and pre-existing medical conditions.
所以说，对这个年龄小于30岁的人群呢，他们也会生病，但他们绝大部分会比较康复。所以说，如果再看看意大利的这个数据呢？感染死亡的人数呢，主要是来自于这个年老的，而且身体比较虚弱的，就抵抗力比较差的人。我们基本上是为全球的各个专家、疫情专家，每天都是紧密的合作沟通的。
So, these are the things that everybody is having to face. And I think the United States is in an excellent position from our medical care position, but we don't want to have to test that system. We want this to be a much smaller epidemic with much smaller mortality.
对，我们需要更小的这个扩散，更少的这个人员死亡。
So the testing numbers, I understand 1 million tests done is a big increase, but we were told there would be 27 million tests available by the end of the month. So can you outline where in the supply chain, where in the logistics chain are those other 26?
有人说这个月底的话，我们要测试大概2700万的人啊，我们有足够的供应量吗？和这个医疗所需吗？
Because a month ago or more, the president brought together the top commercial labs in America and said, we need you to partner with us to create a brand new system that would rapidly process tests. We're now at 1.1 million tests, and we believe it's a fair estimate that we're testing about 100,000 Americans a day. That'll continue to grow. It'll continue to accelerate. But I think the misunderstanding early on was there were many
之前
tests
他
being
讲的
distributed, many
是
test kits being sent,
真正
but under the
测
old
试
system, as the president's described it, the antiquated
和
system,
发测试
those were
过去
being
的
processed
区别。
in state labs or at CDC or in private labs on a very slow,
有的测试
methodical
是在
system that
州
could
里
only
面的
produce
实验
maybe
室，
30 to
还有
50 tests
私
a
人
day.
实验室
But。this new partnership that we have with commercial laboratories allows the
新的
progress we're making. But the breakthrough with Abbott Laboratories now moves to point of care, which
还有
means
像
you're going to have
Abbott 实验
devices
室，
and tests
就
that
是
people
直
will
接
literally
可
be
以
able to
在
take
医
at
院
their
里
doctor's
面
office, at a
测
hospital, at a
试，
clinic, at a
不
nursing
用再
home,
送
and have the
到
results in
实
15
验
minutes.
室。
So those 26 million tests we were
15
talking about,
分钟
were
就
those
可以。
tests under the old antiquated system? And
Yes.
now, so are we still even using those 27 million tests, or have we just completely moved on to the
The
point
The
of
answer
care
is
tests?
那
yes.
记
Now
记
it's
者
fine.
讲，我
even
们现在
today,
还用不用
which is, I have
老
to say,
的
coming
系
out of
统？
laboratories and
就
developed
在
tests and worked on
今天
vaccines and then gone to the field to actually combat epidemics. It is disappointing to me right now that we have
自己的
about
工作经验。
500,000 capacity of Abbott tests
他
that
讲
are not
还
being
是
utilized. So they are
蛮
out, they're
让
in the
人失
states,
望的，
they're not being run and not
已
utilized. So
经
now we have to
发
figure
出
out
去了，但
how
还
do
是没
we
有
create
开始
awareness?
用。
Because sometimes when you put an early platform out, like our
他
first
说要
platform out when the
让
high
大
speed was
家怎么
Roche.
意
So you
识
get that
到
out, people get dependent on that, and then don't see that there's availability of other tests. So
然
right
后
now,
有的
there's
人
over
看不
500,000
到
tests
别的
sitting
方法，
capacity that are not being
有
utilized. So
半
we're
个
trying
百
to figure out
万
how do we
还没
inform
有开
states
始
about where these
用。
all are? How do we work through every laboratory
我们要
association so they're
跟州
aware?
政府
And how do
讲，
we
他
raise
们应该
awareness so
改
people know
变一
that there's
下
point of care, there's Thermo
意
Fisher,
思，
there's Abbott testing, and there's Roche. And if you add those
讲
together,
好多
that's
公
millions
司
of
可
tests a
以
week.
测试，
And they're not, and so those are
加
the
一
all,
起可以
or they're not even being used. So that's what's
有
really, so
100
that's what we're
万。
working on.
What's the reason for being used?
Because when people get used to a single platform, they keep sending it back to that lab.
有的
So it's getting in a
人
queue to wait to get on a Roche
和
machine
一
rather being
个
moved to
实验
this other
室
lab that may have Abbott capacity. Because
合
they're all
作
in different laboratories.
习
And
惯
so
了，
I think, well,
然
actually,
后
Admiral
不想
Giroir is
送
figuring it
到
out to really create some kind of visual so that every governor and every health commissioner can see all of their capacity
想
in
发
their
一点
countries.
这
I mean, in
个
their states, county by
图
county,
片
so that they
给
know where
州
the
里
tests are.
面，
So we pushed a lot of tests out,
让
but they're not all being
这样
utilized. And
It's up
so,
to the people,
让
they
他
don't
们
send it
知
back.
道
I mean, they use them, they don't
都
send
在
it back.
哪里
Dr.
可以测试。
No, I mean, Dr. Burks explained it very, very well. I just want to get back, John, to your
之前
question.
的
It's a logical question.
Dr.
When you
Burke
look at the number, you want to know what the
解释得很
demography is going to
好。
be. This is a
你
number that
想
we
知
need to
道这
anticipate,
个
but we don't necessarily have to accept it as
分布。
being inevitable. And that's getting back to what I'm saying about we can
我
influence this to a varying
有这个
degrees.
数
And if we
字，
influence it to the maximum,
只是
we don't
我
have
们
to
的
accept
一
that.
个
That's something we
想
need to
法。
anticipate. But I want to do, not I,
我
all of
们
us
还
want to
是
do
要
much, much better than that.
有这
On that front,
个
what do the models suggest
想
is
法
on the low end if you have full mitigation?
Well, it says
That was
between
full
100
mitigation.
and-
That was full
Yes.
mitigation.
It says
有
100 to
有很多
200,000.
方法的
Anything was a
话，
lot of people, right? It's a lot of people.
100到
Well,
200
you didn't
千
ask the other question. What would have happened? Because this is the question that
没有
I've
问
been asking Dr.
如
Fauci
果我
and
们
Dr.
不
Birx
做
for a long time, and
什么都不
they've been
做，
working on this for a long
会什
time.
么？
The question is, what would have happened if we did nothing? Because there was a group that said, let's just write it out. Let's write it out. What would have happened? And that number
有一
comes
个
in at
小
1.5 to
组
1.6 million people, up to 2.2 and even
做
beyond. So
这个
that's 2.2 million people would have died
奖励
if we did nothing.
Yo.
We just carried on our life. Now, I don't think that
200
would have been
万。
possible because you would have had people dying all over the place. This would not have been a normal life.
他
How many
说
people
这
would
样
have even seen anybody die? You would have seen
这样
people
子
dying on
大家
airplanes. You would
生
have
活
been
都
seeing
不正
people
常。
dying in hotel lobbies. You would have seen death all over. So I think from a practical
你可以看
standpoint,
大街上
that couldn't have
都
been carried
是
out too far.
有人
But
死。
if you did nothing on the higher side,
如果你
the
什么
number
都
would
不
be
干，
2.2 and maybe even more, and on the lower side, 1.6 million people.
Sure, but if
200
100,000 is the number with full mitigation, how do you push it, lower?
So, no, we'll go together. We've been at this a long time. You go first.
So, John, it's an obvious, very good question. If this is full mitigation and it's 100,000, why am I standing here saying I want to make it better? Because that's what the model tells you it's going to do. What we do is that every time we get more data, you feed it back in and relook at the model. Is the model telling you what's actually going on? And again, I know my modeling colleagues are going to not be happy with me. But models are as good as the assumptions you put into them. And as we get more data, then you put it in, and that might change. So even though it says, according to the model, which is a good model that we're dealing with, this is full mitigation. As we get more data as the weeks go by, that could be modified.
Why does the model now, the top line on the lowball estimate, why does that not top out? I think it said 240,000, not 200,000. Is that a change? Is that because the states haven't been doing enough?
You know, it just has to do with if you had more New Yorks and New Jerseys, you know, Chicago, Detroit, LA, Dallas, Houston, you know, all of our major cities modeled like New York. That's what gets us into trouble. But I am reassured by looking at the Seattle line, by looking at the LA line, by looking at what California's been able to do, that is not something that I don't believe that's going to happen. That is the outside case of having 10, 15 metros like New York and the New Jersey metro area.
New York had community spread pretty early undetected, so don't many of those other states, if not more of them, who had even less information, aren't they likely to see the same spike?
Well, California and Washington State reacted very early to this. I mean, yes, Washington State had some of the earliest infections. They have kept it low and steady, and for now a month has been tracking it with a small increase in the number of cases, but not this logarithmic form of the virus. And so that's the piece that we're trying to prevent. That's the piece that we're trying to prevent in New Orleans, in Detroit, in Chicago, and in Boston right now. And trying to make sure that each of those cities work more like California than the New York metro area.
Mr. President, I just wanted to get your thoughts on face masks. We asked you about this yesterday, and you signaled you were thinking about it.
Just to end the last topic, though, I think I can say this because I spoke to Dr. Birx before and to Dr. French. For whatever reason, New York got off to a very late start. And you see what happens when you get off to a late start. New Jersey got off to, and I think both governors are doing an excellent job. They got off to a very late start. When you look at Washington State, if you remember, that all started in a very confined nursing home. And you had 20-some-odd people, I believe, dying in one home. That doesn't mean it escaped that home. And so they have a very different statistic than other states. But, I mean, I remember very vividly the nursing home in Washington State, where you had many people dying. Every day people were dying in the one exact location. So they were able to keep that, relatively speaking, into that location.
Were you surprised when you saw these projections? The numbers are sobering.
They're very sobering. Yeah, when you see 100,000 people, that's at a minimum number. Now, what we're looking at, and as many people as we're talking about, whatever we can do under that number and substantially under that number, we've done that through really great mitigation. We've done that through a lot of very dedicated American people. That 100,000 is, according to modeling, a very low number. In fact, when I first saw the number, and I asked this a while ago, they said it's unlikely you'll be able to attain. I think we're doing better than that. Now, I think we have to see, but I think we're doing better than that. Because, as John said, that would be, a lot of lives taking place over a relatively short period of time. But think of what would have happened if we didn't do anything. I mean, I've had many
但
friends,
是要
business
想
people,
想，我们
people with great
如果
actually
什
common
么都
sense.
不
They said,
做，
why don't we write
还
it out? A lot of
会
people
有
have said, a lot of people
更
have thought about
糟
it. Write it out. Don't do anything. Just write it out and think of it as the flu. But it's not the flu. It's vicious.
这个不
When you send a
是
friend to the hospital
感冒
and，you call up to find out how is he doing, it happened to me, where goes to the hospital, he says goodbye, he's sort of a tough guy,
很
a
个
little older, a
很
little
多
heavier.
这
he'd
样
like to be,
就感冒
frankly.
就回
And you
家，
go up the next day, how's he doing? And he's in a coma? This is not the flu.
然
So we
后
would have seen things had we done nothing.
这
But for a
个
long
并
while, a
不
lot of people
是
were
感
asking that
冒，
question, I think, right? I was
很
asking
多
it.
人
Also, I mean, a lot of
很
people
久
were saying, well,
都
let's
在
just
讲，
write it out. This is not to be written out,
就
because then you would
是
have been
感
looking
冒
at。
但是
potentially
很
2.2 million people or more. 2.2 million people in a relatively short period of time.
算出来这样
If
子
you
会
remember,
200万
they were looking at
的
that
人
concept.
死，
It's a concept, I guess. You know, it's a concept. If you don't mind death, a lot of death. But they were looking at that in the UK.
这只
Remember?
是一
They
个
were
概
very
念
much。looking at it.
英国
And
就
all of a sudden, they
这
went
样
hard the other
看，
way because they started seeing things that weren't good. So they
后来
were,
发现
you know,
不
put
好
themselves in a little bit of a
就
problem. Now
另
Boris
一个
positive, and I hear I hope he's going to be
Boris
fine. But in the UK, they were looking at that,
生病了，
and they have a
希
name
望
for it,
他
but we won't
会
even
好。
we won't even go by the name. But it would have been very catastrophic, I think, if that would have happened. But that was something that everybody was talking
那
about, Steve.
边
Like,
如果
just
那
don't
样
do
下
anything.
去
Don't do
会
anything.
很不
Forget
好。
about everything. Just write it out. They use the expression "write it out." We would have had, at a minimum, 1.5, 1.6, but you would have had perhaps
这
more
样
than
怎么
2.2
不
million
做
people
就
dying in a very short
至
period of time.
少
And that would have been a
200
number that,
万。
the likes of which we've never seen. So now when we look at our
我们没有
package
见过
that
这
we
样
just
的。
approved for $2 trillion, all of a sudden it seems
我们这个
very reasonable,
救
right?
救
When you're
济的
talking about
package，
2 million
现
lives,
在你
all of a
觉
sudden
得
it seems very
蛮
reasonable.
好的，
I must say, a lot
不
of people
是
that have
那么
been seeing the
多。
more advanced numbers, because these are much more advanced numbers now. You know, when you
有
first
的
started,
人
we didn't know
讲
this was a different kind of a virus,
这
and
个
nobody
数
knew that much
字
about it. Even the experts, you
不
don't
太
really know where it's going.
对。
But then they see what goes on in
有
Italy,
的
and they
专
see what goes on
有
in
的专
Spain,
家还有
and you
意
see
见，
France is having a
看
very hard
看
time, and other countries having a very,
欧洲
very hard time. But once they see what's
别
going
的
on,
国
they
家
start making projections. So I
看
hope they're going to be
看
very high
觉
projections,
得
but
这个样
based on
子，
everything else, that would be the number. Let's see if we can do much better than that. I hope we can. Yeah, John?
What about masks? You
我
didn't
们
answer.
希
What about
望
masks?
做得更好。
Okay.
Well, I understand there's an issue with supplies,
That's right.
but if there
Well,
was
it's
enough
this
for
way. You know, you
Well,
can use a
well,
scarf. A scarf is
well,
everybody. A
你
lot of
可
people have
以用
scarves,
一个
and you can use a
围
scarf.
巾，
Scarf would be very good. And my feeling is, if people want to do it, there's certainly no harm to it.
我
I
觉
would say
得
do it, but use a scarf if you
想
want. You
戴
know,
口
rather than
罩
going
可
out and
以
getting a mask
戴
or whatever. We're making millions and
没有
millions of
什么
masks.
不对。
But we want them to go to the hospitals. I mean, one of the things that Dr. Fauci told me today is we don't want them competing. We don't want everybody
Dr.
competing
Fauci
with the hospitals where you really
不
need them.
想让大
So
家
you
去
can use
抢
scarves. You
医
can use
院
something
的
else over your face. It doesn't have to be a
口罩
mask. But it's not a bad
只
idea,
要
at least for
当
a period of time. I mean, eventually you're not going to want to do that.
面孔
You're not going to have to do that. This is going to be gone. It'll be gone. Hopefully gone for a
等
long
这个
time.
没有了
Please.
就不需要。
President, the mitigation steps that are on your 30-day
嗯
plan,
记者讲
is that enough or is more needed? Have you been
Well, we're going to
discussing
find
that
out.
behind
We
the
hope it's
呃
enough. We hope it's enough. We hope
30
we're at a
天
level where
够
we
不
could
够？
say,
我希
let's go,
望
because
可
our
以
country
够。
wants to get back to work. We really want to get back.
我
Everybody
们
wants to
想
get back
回
to work.
去工作。
Now, I could ask the doctors to answer that question, but we discuss that all
我
the time. What do you
问
think?
医生，但是我也可以。
Well, I think we're very.
mitigation.
I think we've been very harsh. I mean, you look at the streets. I looked at Fifth
我
Avenue today
觉得
on
我们
camera,
做的
and
蛮
I didn't see anybody walking on the
厉害
street. And I'm used to watching that street. You can't even
我
see.
没
You
看
can't
到
see the asphalt. You
马
can't see
路
the
上
concrete.
有人，
And you look at this, nobody. There was one car,
没
looked
有
like it might
人
have been a taxi cab,
And it was in a time of the morning that normally there'd be a lot of people. I mean, I think the mitigation has been very strong.
一
Please.
般人很多，
Will you
我
confirm
觉
your
得我
plans
们做
to
的蛮好
defer。tariff payments for 90 days? And secondly, on
I
interest,
didn't
有
do
没有
anything
想
about
到
tariff payments. I don't know who's talking about tariff payments. They
交
keep talking about tariff payments.
不交
and,
税？
we haven't done that. China's paying us. We made a deal
我
with
没
China. Under the
有
deal, they're paying us
这样子。
25% on $250 billion.
像中国该交税
And I
交
spoke with
税，
President Xi the other day, and he didn't mention that. We didn't mention that. We had a great
我
conversation,
会
by the way.
我
A
们
really
没有
productive
那天
conversation having
讲
to do
话
with
没
many
有
things.
讲
Most
到
of
这
it was
个，
on the virus, but
主要讨论这个
we're not talking.
病。
Who are you with? Who are you with?
if I
Who
could
you
just
with?
clarify.
Whoa. Who are you
你
with?
是哪一家的？
there's reporting by the
Wall
Wall Street
Street
Journal
Journal.
and Bloomberg that there's a plan in
Yeah, I
motion
know it's incorrect reporting.
to.
Well, they might be, but I'm going to have to approve the plan. But one thing I will tell you, I approve
可
everything,
能会
and
发
they，haven't presented it to
但
me.
是我
So
还要
therefore, it's false
我还要
reporting.
同
So
意。
therefore, don't do the story. If we're going to do
所以你
something,
这里在
I'd be glad to let
假
you know.
的
There's nothing
信
wrong with doing it, but we'll let you know. Yeah, please. Let a couple of back. Then we'll get back to you, Jim. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Philip Wetton with Real Clear Politics. I wanted to ask you about individual states issuing stay-at-home orders. What do you think, for instance, in Florida, Ron DeSantis has resisted urges to issue one of those, but he said moments ago that if you and the rest of the task force recommended one, that would weigh on him heavily. What sort of circumstances need to be in place for you to make that call and say this is something you should consider?
Different kind of a state. Also, great governor knows exactly what he's doing. Has a very strong view on it. And we have spoken to Ron. Mike, do you want to just tell
我
him
觉
a
得
little
他
bit
蛮
about that?
好。
Well, let me echo our
但是
appreciation for
解释
Governor
一下。
DeSantis' leadership in Florida. He's been taking decisive steps from early on
佛罗里达州
and
长
working
做
closely
的蛮好，
with our team at the federal level. But let me be very clear on this.
和我们政府
The
很
recommendation of our health
近。
experts was to take the 15 days to slow the spread
我们
and
推
have
荐
the president extend
15天
that to 30 days for every
现
American.
在
Now that being said,
30天，
we
每一个美
recognize
国人
that when you're dealing with a health crisis in the country,
我们
it is locally executed
明
by
白
healthcare workers, but it's state managed. And
这
so we
个还
continue to
是
flow
要地
information
方
to state governors. We continue to hear about the
我
data
们
that they're
让
analyzing
消
and
息
consult with
流
them.
到
But at
地
the
方政
president's
府
direction, the White House Coronavirus Task Force will continue to take the
在我
posture that we
们
will
这里
defer
会继
to
续
state and local health authorities on any measures that they deem
发
appropriate.
消息
But for the
给
next 30 days,
地下
this is
的
what we
政
believe
府。
every American in every state should be doing
这是我
at a
们
minimum
相
to
信
slow the
每
spread.
个
Unless
州
we see something
应该
obviously wrong, we're going to let the governors do it. Now, if it's
如果
obviously
我
wrong,
们
I mean,
看
people
到
can make things, they can make a
明
decision
显
that we
很
think is
错的，
so far
我
out that it's
会
wrong, we will stop that. But in the
开
case
始
of Governor
我会
DeSantis,
停下
there's two
他
thoughts to
们。
it, and two very good thoughts to it. And he's been doing a great job in every respect, so
这
we'll see
是
what
这
happens.
个
But
佛罗里
we
达
only
州
would
长
exercise it
做
if we
的
thought
还
somebody was very obviously
可
wrong. Go ahead,
以。
your turn.
Thanks. I had a question in a minute for Vice President about
Go ahead.
the National Strategic Stockpile, but while you're at the podium, I wanted to ask about
想
your
问
call with President Putin a couple days ago.
Yeah.
I know a big economic concern for a lot of people has been the state of oil prices right now.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you raised that with President Putin, if you were
油
able to
的
in any
We had a
way
call.
share-
价
Probably about that, the oil prices, because as you know, Russia and
讲了
Saudi
油
Arabia are going at it,
价，
and they're really going at it, and by
俄
going at
国
it to the extent
和
that they are,
中
the
东
oil has dropped to a point where, look, it's the
这个
greatest tax cut
油
we've ever
已
given.
经
If you look at it that
到
way, because people are going to be paying
很便宜
99 cents for a gallon of gasoline. It's
就19分
incredible in a lot of ways, going to help the
的油
airlines, but at the same time, it's hurtful to
对
one of
飞
our
机
biggest
是蛮
industries,
好
that's
的。
the oil industry. It's really
我们
it's not
的
even feasible what's going on.
油
So I spoke to President Putin about that. I
也
also
也
spoke to
在
the
升
Crown Prince about that, Saudi Arabia.
我和
No, I think, yeah, they're going to get together, and we're all going to get together, and we're going to see what we can do, because you don't want to lose an industry. You're going to lose an industry over it. Thousands and thousands of jobs.
我们都不想丢
I
掉
don't know
这
if you know,
个
there's oil all over the oceans right
油。
now. The boats are all filled. The ships are, they're renting ships that were dying, that weren't
他
doing well,
们
and now
租
like
油
that's where they're
租
storing oil.
船
They're sent out to sea, and they sit there
然
for
后
long periods of
存
time.
油。
There's so much oil. In some cases, it's probably less valuable than water. In some parts of the world, water is much more valuable. So we've never seen anything
现
like
在
it.
比
But the
水
two
都要
countries
便
are
宜，有的地方。
discussing it, and I am joining
我们
at the
在
appropriate time if need be. We had a great talk with President Putin. We had a great talk with the Crown Prince. We also discussed, more so with President Putin in this case, the virus, because Russia's being hit
和
pretty
普
hard.
京也讲了
And we
这
discussed
个
many things.
病
Trade. We discussed a lot of
在
things
俄
with
国
both.
的事
But
情，我
in the
们
case
讲了
of both,
很
we
多
very much
事情，
discussed the oil and the oil prices. I mean, you look, it's $22, but it's really
也
much
讲
cheaper
了这
than
个
that
油，
if you want to negotiate. Nobody's seen that. That's like from the 1950s.
没有人
It really
见
is. You
过
know, to
油
think
这
that it
样。
was 50, 60, 70, 80, and now it's 22. But, you know, if you put a good bid in at 9, I think you could probably get what you wanted, right? John, please.
Mr. President, you tweeted earlier today that now would be a good time to start looking toward, if there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and work on an infrastructure bill. Again, you suggested it should be $2 trillion, which is twice what the last one was, or the proposal at least. Are you anticipating that, like after the economic crisis of 2008, 2009, America will need to have so-called shovel-ready jobs ready to go to get people back to work?
Well, the problem with that one is
我
they had
们
maybe shovel-ready jobs, maybe not, but they never used it for the purpose of infrastructure. So far, nobody's been able to find any money that was spent on infrastructure. I want to use it for infrastructure.
去
And
建
one of the
设
reasons
一
I'm
下，
suggesting it, John, is we're paying
顺
zero
便
interest. The
提
United
供
States is
工
paying
作。
almost zero interest rate. The Federal Reserve lowered the rate, the Fed rate,
现在
and that and a combination of
Fed
the
rate
fact that everybody wants to be in the
基本上是
United
零。
States. You know, we have a dollar that's very
大家
strong, and I
都
know that
想
sounds
来
good,
美
but it does
国，
make it hard to manufacture and sell
美
outside because
也
other
很
currencies are falling
强
and our currency is very strong. It's very, very strong. Proportionately, it's through the roof. So we have a strong dollar. People want to invest in the United States, especially nowadays where they're looking
大
at
家想
safety. They
过
have
来
all of the
投
problems, plus the
资，
virus at 151 countries. They all want to come into the
有
United
很
States.
多
So we have a
问
zero
题
interest
都
rate,
想来
essentially.
美国。
And I said, wouldn't this be a great time to borrow money at zero interest rate and really build our infrastructure like we can
我
do it?
们现
So
在
the
可
plan was,
以
the
借
Republicans had a
钱
plan
去
of
修
about
这些
750. I would
地方。
say they were where at 7.5. Well, you had the Democrats were a little less than $1 trillion. The Republicans were a little bit less than that. And I'm suggesting $2 trillion. We
两个
redo
党
our
讨
roads, our
论
highways, our bridges. We
借
fix
多
up our
少
tunnels, which are many of them in bad shape, like coming into New York,
修
as you know, a lot really bad shape. And we really do a job in our
修路。
infrastructure. And that doesn't mean we're going to do the Green New Deal, because I won't do it. I won't approve it. We're not going to do the Green New Deal and
我
spend
不
you
会
know
搞这个
40% of the
Green
money
New
on things
Deal。
that people just have fun with.
How would you pay for it, sir?
We're going to borrow the money at 0% interest. So our interest payments would be
借
almost zero,
钱
and we can
现
borrow
在
long term. People want to be in the United States. They want to be invested in the
May-
United States. Go ahead, Jim.
I wanted to get back to the virus. You were saying at the beginning of the press conference that you're looking at
回到
holding
这个
back
病。
10,000 ventilators. Is that because you need to pick
你
and choose
想
where
要
these ventilators are going to have to
存
go
呼
because
吸
of the
机？
nature of the
你
pandemic?
是想
And
要
also,
挑
and also,
这
I just wanted to
个
ask
来
Dr.
去哪
Fauci,
里
Dr.
吗？
Birx, if it's possible after you finish, is that part of the
问一下
reason why
两个
you're
医
projecting
生，
100,000 to 200,000 deaths? That there are going to be some people who aren't going to be able to get ventilators or be put on
Actually,
是
ventilators?
不
just the
是有
opposite,
人
because
不会
we're
拿
holding
到
back.
呼
We have
吸
almost
机？
10,000, and we're holding because we're
我
going to need them
们
over the
存
next couple of weeks
这
as the surge goes on. You see the
是
chart. We haven't
为
hit the
下
top
几
yet,
个礼
and we
拜，
have to be able to move them immediately. And we can't take them because it's going to be very hard to do that. We
我
can't take
们
them to places that
到
aren't
时候
needing
直
them.
接
Plus,
送
we
过
have
去。
requests for ventilators in hospitals and in states and cities that don't need them, in our opinion. They don't need them. They won't need them
有
at
的
the
州
top.
不需
So
要，
we're
还
holding
问
it
我
back for
们
flexibility.
要
We。actually just took 600 and we sent them to different locations today.
我们
But we have close to
到时候
10,000, and
可
we'll be
以
able to
送
get them, and we're all set to march. We have the National Guards and we have FEMA, and we're all set to move them to the places. So,
有
as for your
FEMA。
second question, what we're going to do is save lives because of it, because otherwise we would
我
not be able
们
to
会
get to the
救
ventilators. And we don't know
命。
what the hottest
We have
spot
a
is.
ventilator shortage right now.
In some
我
areas
们
we
现
might,
在不知道
but
哪
we've
里
done a great job with ventilators, and we're
更厉
having them
害。
made unbelievable. We have now 11
我
companies
们
making
在
ventilators. Now they'll be starting to
11
arrive in
个
the
公
next
司
week. But
造，
we've also grabbed a lot of them. Some hospitals had more than they were saying, or at least more
有
than we knew
的
about, which is a good
有
thing, not
的
a bad
医
thing.
院
But we
有
want to be
更
able to have,
多
I。guess the word would be flexibility, so that if the surge turns out to be much
希
stronger in
望这
Louisiana, which it
个
could,
可
that we
以
can
到时候
immediately bring
变得
1,000
比较
or
容易。
2,000 to Louisiana. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to
出
get
大
them. We
的
wouldn't be able to
事
say,
情，我
listen,
们就
Governor
发到
Cuomo in
哪
New York,
里。
we want to take ventilators away from New York. And they'll say, well, we can't do that. It would be a disaster. So we have
像
great flexibility. Now,
扩模
when the
可能
surge
就不
occurs,
会
if it
让我
occurs fairly
到时
evenly,
候再
we'll be able to distribute them
调
very
到
quickly
别的
before
地
they need
方。
them. But we have a
这样
reserve right
子
now. It's
我
like
们这
having
里
oil reserves,
需
except
要
more
一
valuable,
点
frankly. But we have a reserve right now. And we'll be
需
able,
要
and we
一
also have a
点
great team of people
存
ready
的
to deliver.
像油
They
一
can
样
move。them fast. So when we see it going up in a certain
我
state,
们
and
也有
Louisiana could be one, and Michigan could be
可以
another
运
with
的
Detroit, because
人。
Detroit is having a lot of
Michigan,
hard
Detroit.
time right now. Detroit came out of nowhere,
他们
and
现在
that's what
很
happens with this. It
困
comes out
难
of，nowhere. So
不
we are
知
ready,
道
Jim, depending
什
on
么
what
时候
happens,
开始的
and。we have a stockpile, and that's why it's called a stockpile.
我
Now,
们
a lot
这
of
里
the
有存的
ventilators and a lot of the other equipment, rather than sending it to the stockpile, we had it sent
有
directly to a hospital, to a location,
我
to a
们
place.
现在也
So we
有
didn't have the cumbersome nature of having it come in, unboxed, put in, and then delivered. We have it brought, which they've never done before. They don't do that. Generally speaking, they don't do
我
that.
们
But we've had, I think, Mike,
一般
we've had tremendous success at doing that. That's
我
for
们很成
other
功
items, including
的
ventilators,
送
where it's brought
送到
to
别
the site
人
that needs it. But we have a
那边
good
去。
supply of ventilators, and we're
送
ready
到
to go.
需
We're
要
all ready.
的
We have trucks
地
ready. We have
方。
everything ready, because
我们
as
都
we're
准
saying,
备
John,
好
this
了
could be a hell of a bad 2
卡
weeks.
车
This is
也
going to
有
be a very bad 2 and maybe even
这
3
个
weeks.
2 个
This is
礼
going to be
拜
3 weeks like we haven't seen before.
可能还有3
Should
个
the
礼
hospitals
拜
be prepared for that?
没有人
We
见
heard
过。
Well, I
some
think the
hospitals
hospitals,
that they're facing what looks like a medical war zone in some
yeah,
of these
they,
places.
they are going to be facing a war zone.
医
That's what it
院
is.
就像
I've
打
heard
仗一
some
样。
of the paramedics and some of the
我
doctors.
听
They said
说
they've been in war zones. They've
有
never
的医
seen anything like
生
this. You look at Elmhurst Hospital in Queens.
去
I've
过
never seen it.
打仗，
I mean, I just
都没有
think it's
见
because
过
it's
这样
a
子的。
hospital that's near where I grew up, and it is a war zone
这
in
个
a true
我
sense.
家
Yes.
旁
On the ventilator,
旁
so
边的
we've been
医
hearing
院
from
真的就
governors who
像
say
打
they
仗
are
一
fighting
样。
amongst themselves, essentially
记者
bidding amongst
讲
They
themselves to
shouldn't be
get these
doing that. If
ventilators.
that happens,
有
they should
的
be calling
州
us.
长在
Look,
抢
we
州
have
长的
ventilators, but we've
呼吸
distributed
器，
thousands of ventilators.
我们有
They shouldn't be doing that. And if they need them that badly, we know. We
州
have
长
pretty
不
good
该这
ideas
样。
of where they're going to
我
need them.
们
Some
政
people,
府
frankly,
大
think they
家
need them and they
差
don't
不
need them.
多知
I don't
道
want to，mention names, but there are
有
some
的
people
州
that
长
want
觉
them.
得我
And
要
it's，really
但是
not
其实
the
他
right thing.
们
Then
不
you have
需
some
要
people，
我也不
that
提是
I
谁
guess
了。
automatically hoard a little bit. They want to have more than they think they need.
有的人自
But
动
you know,
就
a
想
ventilator is
多
a
拿
very
一
precious
点，
piece of equipment right now.
但是
It's
呼
hard to
吸
make.
机是
It
很
takes a long time to make it. It's complex.
很
Some of
稀
them
有
are
的，
like
现
the
在
dashboard of an airplane. I mean, they're very
造起
complicated
来
and very expensive machines.
很
And
难
some are
的，
much simpler. But we're ready to go
有的
depending
稍
on what
微简
happens.
单一点
But。we have some hospitals
我
in some
们
states that think they
这
need
里可以
ventilators, and we
送
don't
到
think they do.
哪
Now,
里
if they do need
都
them,
可以。
we will have them there before they need them. We'll be able to move very
如果
quickly.
有需要的话，会很快送过去。
on these trials?
Nothing that I've heard. I mean, that's the first question I make every morning. I tell you, I call up, you know, we have 1,100 in New York right now, and we have other locations where they're, where patients, people are taking them. Now, the good news is it's only 3 days. And you know, it's like a 7 or 8 day treatment. The good news is we haven't heard
我不
anything
太
bad.
确定中文。
In other words, there have been no
Hydrochloroquine.
catastrophic events. But we haven't, it's a little bit too soon to talk about it. It would be a total game
没有人
changer,
出
John, if that
大
happened.
事
If that happened, it
但
would be
是
a
现
game
在
changer.
还很
And
早，
we include that
没
in
有
that, and I
研
think in all
究。
cases, the Z-Pack, you know what the Z-Pack is. So
我
we're
们
going to see what happens with
Z-Pack
the hydroxychloroquine.
到时候看看
Yeah, just one second.
There's other antiviral drugs that have some promise of working soon.
We're looking at a lot of them. We're looking at a lot of them. Some show
我们
promise.
再看很多
I think maybe the doctor might want to speak about the
不一样的药。
vaccines because a lot of Johnson & Johnson is
我们还
advanced,
讲到了
very advanced. We'll see what happens.
疫
The
苗
one thing with the vaccine is it doesn't help this group because this group, it's, you know, you need to test a vaccine.
有
The
的
one thing with the
疫苗
drug you just
帮不
mentioned,
到
right, is that that's been out. It's a
帮
malaria
不
drug
到
and also an arthritis
这
drug,
个
so it's
这
been out
些
there for a long
人
time. Very powerful drug, but it's been out there for a long time.
chloroquine
So it's tested in the sense that you know it doesn't kill you. But you may want to
已经
discuss the
测试
vaccines for
了
a second, Dr.
就是另外一种测试的方式。
Just for a second before the vaccine, in answer to your question, Steve, there are a number of candidates. The
Dr.
drugs that are now being
医
looked at
生
in
讲
various ways, either compassionate
看我
use,
们在看
clinical
很
trials,
多不
but
一样的
generally
药，
drugs that already exist for other things. There's a whole menu
有
of
的
drugs
药
and interventions that are now going into
治
clinical
别的
trials
病的，
that are not approved for anything
现
yet.
在
I
都
mean, for
在
example,
试
things like
验，
immune
还没
serum,
有
convalescent
批
plasma, or hyperimmune globulin, or monoclonal antibodies, a variety of other
像
things. Right now,
各种各
there's a
样这
lot of
些
activity going
药
on behind the scenes in the design of the kinds of
我
clinical trials that will
们
give us an answer.
在
Because you need an answer
设计
because if it
很
doesn't
多
work, you want to get it off the
实验。
table and go to the next one. So there are a lot of things. Vaccine.
How long does that normally take? Weeks, months?
Yeah, no, it takes at least months. At least
要
months. At
很
least.
要多
So,
久？
I mean,
至
that's the
少几
reason
个
why
月
you're。seeing a lot of activity with drugs that already exist for other
这
purposes
是
because they're
你
already
看
there.
到
But the drugs that you want to show in a good
我
randomized
们
clinical
做那么
trial,
这么多
at
事
very
的
best, they're
原
going to take
因，
months. Just one word on the vaccine. You know, exactly like we said, we
试
hope
试验
that as
至
we
少
get
几
into
个
the
月
summer,。if in fact there are cases out there when you're in a phase 2 or phase 3 trial or 2B, as we call it, that we might get an early efficacy signal. And an efficacy signal means that even though you haven't definitively proven that a vaccine works, you get enough information that if it were an emergency, you might be able to have an emergency use authorization for it.
That sounds good. And I have to say this, hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin, which is, you know, you take it with it, maybe you want, for the infection. I think some medical
这个
workers
感
are
染
doing
是
that,
这个
using it
氯
maybe or
喹
getting it prescribed perhaps as for another use. But the word is that some are and some aren't. I mean, I think it's not a bad idea to do it, but that's up to the doctors. But there is a theory going around
有的
that
医生开，
in
有
our
的
country
医
and some
生
other countries,
不
people are
开这
taking
个
that
药。
work in the hospitals, that work with the patients, because there is some evidence, and again, it's going to have to be proven. It's very early. You know,
有一
we're rushing
点
this stuff
证
through.
明
This was supposed to take a long time to be approved, and I prevailed
这个
upon the
有
FDA to get
点
it approved
效
immediately
果
on the basis that it was already on the market for a lot of
还
years, for
要
another years.
看
Malaria,
FDA
mostly,
的
and
批准
arthritis, but mostly malaria. So we'll see what happens, but there is a theory out there that for the
我
medical
们要
worker,
看
doctor, it may work. It may
但
work.
是
And if you
对
take
很
it,
多
it's,
医
you know, it's
院
been out there for a long time. Please, go ahead.
I just wanted to go back to Jim's question about the national stockpile. The governor of Connecticut today.
About which?
The
我
national
们想
strategic
我
stockpile.
想回到
Governor
这
of
个
Connecticut today
存
said that he
货
was
的
disturbed to learn
问题
that the stockpile is now empty. That's his words. And he
有的
said,
人
Well, it's
讲
not
没
empty. Let me
有
explain
了
something.。What we're doing, I thought I said
我
it accurately.
让我来
I
讲
certainly
这
meant
个
to.
还有
Rather than having it brought into the stockpile, where appropriate, other than certain things like we have quite a few
我
of the
们
ventilators,
不要
which
让
is
这
not
个
a lot
东
when you look
西
at the whole country. Actually, it
呼
sounds
吸
like a
机
lot,
不要
almost
存起
10,000.
来。
But we're trying to have supply sent
我
directly to the
们
states because we save a
直
big
接
state.
发到
We save a
州
big. We don't want medical supplies coming in to warehouses all over the place, and then we take them from there and bring them to another warehouse. So
它
we're having it
封
brought
起
from
来，
ideally from the manufacturer directly to the hospital or the
直
state
接
where it's
工
going.
厂
So
去医
we're
院，
trying to keep it that way as much as possible. Now, in some cases, we
要
are
尽
having it
量
brought.
这样。
Remember this, we also took over a virtually empty, and I say it again, just like
我
we had no
们
ammunition in
我
the military,
接了
and
一
we had
个
virtually no
空的
ammunition. Well, we
仓
had
库，
very little in medical supplies
连
too in our stockpile.
呃
So for the most part, we're
军
trying
火
very
可
hard
能
to
都
have
没
it
有。
delivered to the site where they
我
need it. Yeah,
们
please go ahead.
President, here in the United States domestically, we can practice social distancing, but some of our sailors, specifically on the USS Theodore Roosevelt, they're not able to. They're confined spaces. What are your thoughts on that? Should they be offloaded? And then, sir, are you concerned?
I'm going to let the military make that
Yes, sir.
decision.
But are you concerned about U.S.
军队
military
没有
readiness
这样。
during this pandemic? For instance, what would happen if as
担
reported, China
担
was
心
to
军队
increase patrols in the South China Sea? What would your
Well, we're going
response
to
be?
see
会不
all
会
about that. Don't worry
到
about our military. You know, you saw the
南海
military put up a hospital in 3.5 days with 2,900 beds.
我们的
with a lot
军
of
队
beds. Nobody's ever seen anything
建
like it. And by the way, that
医院
wasn't the only one. It wasn't just at Javits Center.
还
It
不
was at other
止一
locations.
个，
And now
不
it's
止一个
Louisiana.
Jarvis Center，
And now it's New Jersey.
还
And now
有
it's other places.
Louisiana，还有 New Jersey，
One thing that I think
还有
is
很多别的
indisputable
地
is
方。
when I watch the Army Corps of Engineers and FEMA
我觉
working with
得
them, but when I watch the Army Corps of Engineers
军
throw up
队
these
和
hospitals, and
FEMA
they're complex. I mean, these are incredible buildings, essentially,
这
tents,
些医院都
various
很
things,
复
but they did
杂
it，in such a short period of time.
他们
And
那么
our
快
military is ready like you haven't seen.
做
And you know
好
who the best
我们的
guests of the
军
different
队
shows are? We watch the shows
很
at
准
night.
备。
And I think the
好
best guests that I've seen in a long time are the military people, and they've never done it before.
我
I've watched
见
General
过最好
Semonite,
的
who I deal with a lot.
是军
They say,
队，
General, you got to give us 2 new hospitals in Louisiana. Yes, sir. And the next morning, they're
我
building them
讲
at 6
2
o'clock in the
个
morning, and
新
they're up
医
in
院
3 days. I think they're
早
the
上
best,
6
the
点
best guests you have. I guess I'm tired of the other guests, in all fairness.
What kind of message do you have?
Okay,
to the
Jim,
sailors?
go ahead.
Yes, this may be an uncomfortable question, but what would have looked like that Dr.
我要
Brooks
问
and
一个
Dr. Fauci
不太
chose
适宜
if
的
we
问
had
题。
started these social distancing guidelines
我们
sooner,
算
in
的这
February
个
or January, when China, South
数
Korea
字
were doing those sorts of things.
Well, I'm going to let them answer
Reliable
that.
in
Yeah.
terms of what
我们
information we're getting from them, but if we had started these
要是
practices sooner,
早
could these models be different right
Yeah, I'm
now?
going to let them
早
answer the
再
question, but
早一
remember
点
this, and
开
again, I
始
say it, and everybody says it. You know who says it better than anybody is Dr. Fauci. I had a decision to
嗯
make.
，Dr.
Maybe it was my
Fauci 讲
biggest
的很
decision.
好，
China was heavily
我
infected,
要决
and
定
thousands and thousands of people were coming from China to the United States.
几
And
千几
against the
千的
wishes,
人
not even wishes, but they disagreed with the decision.
从
I made it
过来
to。stop China
我
from
那
coming
个
in.
时
Took a
候
lot of heat, even
就
from China. They weren't exactly happy. I
禁
just made
止
a trade
飞
deal,
了，
a big one,
在
$250
中
billion
国他
trade
们也
deal, and
不
I'm
开心，很
shortly
多人
thereafter
不
saying
开
you can't
心
come。into our country. That was a big decision. That was earlier than the dates you're talking
这
about.
是一个很
So
大
that was
的
a big
决定。
decision. That was probably, and by the way, not because I did it, that was probably the biggest decision we made so far. But if you look at
这不
the
和
one
我
graph,
没有关系，但
the
是这
problem
是
New
一
York has
个
is New
大
York
决
started
定。
late, but the other ones didn't start so late. It's also more complicated because, for obvious reasons.
纽
But
约
it
更
got
复杂
a。late start. But do you want to maybe answer
I
those
think,
questions?
I don't know if you can go back to slide 2, because I wanted to explain 2 things that I think is really important, because we had a lot of
slide
questions
2.
about reality and what it meant.
很多人问
This
这
confidence
个
interval.
死亡
So here's
人数
This is the confidence.
线，
This where
这是
we have the
confidence
ability
interval。
to push it down. So you have a large
我们
confidence interval around the line.
很大的
So
一
we're trying
个
to move that gray down tighter and below the dotted line. So I think that's really
空间
important. And then if you can go to the next slide.
让这个线下去。
So we really can't answer your question until we can get antibody testing
我
out there.
们
Because what
没
we
办
can't
法
tell you
回答你的问
is in,
题
and。we can always do this. There's always samples
知道
in
我们有
hospitals and other things. It's the way
这
we
个
really define the HIV
测试
epidemic in the United
antibody
States. We were able to go back to blood samples add the test and really find out
我
where
们
it
要
was
测
and what
这
was
个
going on.
血的
You
样
really
本，
need to look in here and really see,
要看
was
到
there
这个
virus
前面
significantly
的
circulating in early March and in late February, and what did it look
看
like,
到
and where was it, and was it
3
all in
月
the metro
早
areas? And I
期
think that's what Dr.
有
Fauci and I are
没
very,
有开
very
已经
focused
开
on,
始
is getting serology testing out there to really figure out when it came, and really have those samples
我
to be
们
able to do that.
会发的
My
去
question,
测这
and
个。
please, I don't mean to put you on the
No,
spot.
we understand, but we
there may
can't
be
answer it
Americans
to,
at
yeah.
home.
我不想让
What-
之前有
what
更
Dr.
多
Burks was saying, if there was no virus in the background, there was nothing to mitigate. If
如
there
果
was
我们
virus
没
there that
有
we didn't know about, then the
那
answer
个
to
时
your
候
question
没有
is
的话，没有
probably
什么
yes.
需要
Now, the only
去
trouble with that is that
做的。
whenever you come out and say
如
something
如
like
果
that,
那
it
时候
always
有的话，
becomes
就是
almost a sign.
发
Then
病
there's nothing to mitigate. And I don't know the answer to your question.
才会
But we were
像你
watching
Yeah.
South Korea, excuse me, and China and Italy. These
记
were
者讲，我们
spiking.
看
In a perfect
中国、
world,
意大
it would have
利、
been nice
韩
to
国
know，what was going on there. We didn't, but I
我
believe
们很早
We inherited obsolete tests.
Can I speak to that too as well? President made reference to the fact
我
January
想
shortly thereafter,
我
we
很
issued
早就
strong
听
travel
中
advisories for
国
the
飞
sections of Italy
机
implicated. Section screen
不建
all
议
passengers
旅
from all
行
airports
意
coming
大
into the
利、
United States of America.
韩国。
The president's initial efforts were designed at preventing the coronavirus from coming into the United
我
States.
之前
And what our experts have
是
told us
要
again, amount of time on this curve
这些
to
动作
respond
给
with
我
kind of
们很
mitigation
多
efforts,
时间。
standing up resources to supplies that are in effect. But we went from a prevention strategy the
我们
president acted on
从
before the month of
防别
January was
人
over
进来
to a mitigation strategy